for doing PhD in chemistry. Sustainable development is the need of the present time, not only for the survival of mankind, but also for its future protection. Unlike the other great revolution in human history, the Green Revolution and the Industrial Revolution, the Sustainable Revolution will have to take place rapidly, consciously, and on many different levels and in many different spheres simultaneously. Some of the environmentally important ions also play some important role in the sustainable development. That is why we have chosen the topic, Challenges for Sustainable Development, Analytical Perspectives of Environmentally Important Ions. We are lucky enough that amidst us, we have Professor Chittaranjan Sinha, Sir, Professor of Inorganic Chemistry, Jadavpur University, Kolkata. And he is also the Honorary Secretary of Indian Chemical Society, Kolkata. I think he is the right person to discuss the above matter elaborately. With this hope, welcoming you all again, I conclude my speech. Thank you all. Have a nice day. Over to Suresh Kumar Nath.
Thank you very much, Madam. Now, I would like to request our Honorable Principal, Dr. Bonomina to give her welcome speech. And before that, just I want to introduce her. Dr. Bonomina Brahmo is the 11th Principal of Kokrajhar Government College. And she did her graduation from Cotton College, Guwahati, in history as a major subject. And then she did her MA from Pune University. And after that, she did her PhD from North Bengal University on incorporation and administration of Eastern Brewers under the colonial rule. And she has an experience of 22 years of servicing in this college. And we are very happy to have a very young and dynamic principal. So I request Madam to please welcome the participants from the side of the college. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. At the very outset, I would like to welcome the invited speaker in this webinar, and Dr. Sinha from Jadavpur University. I do welcome all the participants who have joined this webinar from different institutions. I do welcome all our students who have joined in this webinar, and I'm very much thankful. I'm very much glad that the postgraduate departments of Kokrajhar Government College has organized this very relevant webinar on very relevant topic, that is sustainable development through environmental environment, and which is very much relevant in today's world. As we know that our planet, the Earth, is decaying. It's in a very it's degrading every year, and the cause of this decay of the Earth is none other than us, the human. We, the human being, are destroying our beautiful planet. Now, we have, nowadays we can feel, we have witnessed that tremendous changes in environment, tremendous pollution, and poverty. And due to this, and all these are related with the destruction that we, mankind, has done to Mother Earth. Now, how to improve? The time has come to improve the condition of Mother Earth. Now, how to do it? How do we do it? This is the major concern, and this is the major challenge of 21st century. The United Nations has been warning the whole world about the rapid climate changes, and it has been, organizing a lot of, it has been making policies to make the earth longer, lasting longer, and make it more, livable to the human kind. Because of the decay of the earth, today we are, witnessing a lot of diseases like poverty, disease, everything. So now it is the duty of us human beings to protect the Mother Earth through, and how that we have to make out. We have to protect the environment. We have to protect the earth from more decay. Like environmentally, we should be aware. We should make policies on the waste management. We should, our people socially, and we should we should be determined to protect the planet from degradation, include through sustainable consumption of power and managing its natural resources through environment friendly process. Okay, so this is the main challenge, and we should, all of us should take an oath to utilize everything that nature has given us judiciously. If all of us are, conscious and use the natural resources, the bounty that Mother Earth has given to us, if we do it religiously, then the earth is going to give us double benefit. Whatever we give, it gives us back in twice, threefold, way. So I hope that today's seminar will bring out, the different ways how we will save Mother Earth. And I do believe through this webinar, we will be able to make our young minds, the students, about the problem, about the danger, about the problem faced by today's world, and thereby the students will go back to their community, to their locality, and they will, spread the message of, message of the need of the protection of the planet from further degradation. With this, I hope, I wish this webinar very successful, to be a very successful one. And once again, I welcome all of you, and formally, I do declare this webinar to be open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam, for your short as well as very informative speech, welcome address. So now I would like to introduce all of you, one of our senior colleague, who is more famous as a poet in our society. She is none other than our IQAC coordinator, Madam Ojali Sumtar. So I request Madam Ojali Sumtar short speech and this occasion of this seminar. Hello, Madam.
Thank you, Suresh. Respected Principal of Kokrajhar Government College, Dr. Bonavina Brahma, most respected resource person, Professor Chittaranjan Sinha of Jadavpur University, Kolkata, and Honorary Secretary of Indian Chemical Society, my colleagues, Dr. Basanta Kumar Das, HOD Chemistry, and dear participants. First of all, I welcome you all to this national webinar, Challenges for Sustainable Development, Analytical Perspectives of Environmentally Important Ions, organized by Postgraduate Department of Chemistry of Kokrajhar Government College and IQAC, in collaboration with a premier science society of India, the Indian Chemical Society. In our everyday life, we use many ionic compounds. For example, salt, baking soda, baking powder, vinegar, detergent, bleach, toothpaste, antacid, etc., etc. We also know that excess use of chemicals lead to environment degradation. The detergent we use in bathrooms ultimately accumulate in water body and harm the aquatic life. The phosphates in detergent can lead to freshwater algae bloom that releases toxins and deplete the oxygen level in water. Also, when the algae decompose, they use up oxygen available for aquatic life. So we know how harmful the detergent is for aquatic life. So whether it is deforestation leading to nitrogen oxide flow or increase of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, these have direct impact on health, environment, and productivity of food because everything is connected. So for sustainable development, we have to address the problems and challenges that mankind is facing. Global warming, climate change, air pollution, onset of new diseases, water scarcity, destruction of natural habitat for wildlife, waste management, and ever increasing need for energy and food production. So we have to understand the chemistry of the indicators, the environmentally important ions. So today's seminar will enlighten about the analytical perspectives of these ions. We are very happy to have Professor Chittaranjan Sinha among us. We had the opportunity to meet and listen to him in a 2-day national seminar organized in our college before the pandemic 2 years ago. I, on behalf of Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Kokrajhar Government College, welcome you all to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. We are very much happy to have our Anjali Madam because she is one of the Sahitya Academy awardee in Bodo literature. So thank you, Madam, once again. Now, the most important person of this seminar, that is Professor Chittaranjan Sinha sir. So first of all, I like to welcome sir, and I want to just give a brief introduction of Sinha sir among the participants. Sir has started his career in 1992 in the Department of Chemistry, Burdwan University. After that, he in 1994 he joined Vidyasagar University, but he again came back to Burdwan University. And in 2004, he has joined in Jadavpur University. And after that, he has been continuing his teaching as well as research in Jadavpur University. He used to teach inorganic chemistry, all basic inorganic chemistry, as well as chemical toxicology, luminescence spectroscopy, environmental radiochemistry, analytical chemistry, etc. And he is also engaged in many social as well as lot of research activities. Till now, he has produced around 44 PhD students, completed PhD students. And his research area is focused mainly on coordination chemistry and its application, then design of sensors and their selectivity of ions, different ions, then computational studies, metal organic frameworks. These are the main research areas he is interested. And he has published more than 350 publications in different reputed journals published by SES, RSC, Elsevier, Wiley, then Spinzer, etc. and he has completed around 24 projects under UGC, CSIR, DSC, AICTE, etc. And he is also a visiting professor in Singapore, Japan, Taiwan, Italy, like that. And he is also associated with some journals as an editor as well as additional editor and associate editor. And he has organized many conferences, national as well as international level conferences. And even doing all these works, he is still engaged in national service team. Under national service team, he used to organize health programs, environmental awareness programs. And presently, he is also the honorary secretary of the prestigious 96 years old organization, that is Indian Chemical Society. Sir, we are very much happy to have you amongst us, and I hope the participants will be delighted to listen from you about the topic. So, Professor Chitra-Ranjan Sinha sir, I welcome to this you to this seminar, and I request you to deliver your speech. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are you audible to me?
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, Principal Madam. So second time we are, although it is in a virtual mode, but we are in academic discussion. So, and Honorary Principal Madam, Honorary Head of the Chemistry Department, also Professor Busumatarai, and also other faculty members of the department and college, and other participants from different parts of the country. And it is in fact a happy moment to me as well as on part of the Indian Chemical Society. It is an opportunity that we, the Indian Chemical Society and the Chemistry Department of Kokrajhar Government College is organizing this webinar. I think this type of programs may be continued throughout the country in different institutes, higher learning institutes at this pandemic period to continue our scientific activities. Today I will talk you on challenges for sustainable development, analytical perspective of environmentally important ions. Let me to display it. Wait a moment. I am sharing my slides. Is it visible to you? Hello, Dr. Das?
Yes, sir.
Hi. Hi.
Yes, sir.
Oh, slides are visible. Okay. Then today's topic is the challenge. In fact, throughout the whole world is now under challenging conditions towards the sustainable development. We, the chemists, at the in fact, Professor Busumatarai rightly said that chemistry at the central part, and both the pollution, both the environmental erosion as well as environmental protection, all being carried out by chemistry. You know, this is a periodic table, which is the heart of the chemistry. And out of these 92 naturally occurring elements, our life is constituted by 1/3 of them. And these elements, in fact, some of these elements are in very large amount, and some of the elements present in very trace amount. And their presence in biology controls everything: our origination, our growth, our sustainability, our death also is related to some chemical reactions. So I'll talk today on the environmental detection of environmentally important ions. Those are very important for our life processes and for the growth of the society. And there are number of diseases that can be cured by the administration of metals. Metals are used as the medicine in our ancient India. In ancient times, if you remember, Mokorodhwaj, one of the very important molecule that was being used for many diseases. For example, TB. TB disease in ancient times is being treated with Mokorodhwaj. Syphilis is also treated with Mokorodhwaj. Some special fevers are also treated with Mokorodhwaj. This Mokorodhwaj was chemically analyzed by Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray, and he had shown it is mercuric sulfide, HGS. And although in later time it is proved that mercury is very toxic to human health, but this Mokorodhwaj, it has some positive role. I mean to say, from ancient times, is India is producing large number of molecules. Those are useful for the human health. And if you go through the human body, this human body contains the large number of elements, around 27 or 28 elements so far it is known. Out of them, 99.9% by weight is composed of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur, fluorine, sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. These are known as the bulk elements. While some of the elements, those present in very trace and ultra trace level, they are iron, chromium, manganese, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc, vanadium, boron, fluorine, bromine, iodine, molybdenum, selenium, lithium. They are used in very small amount, ultra trace level, but they control the every activity of the molecules. See this plot, with increasing concentration of this element in diet, the biological function that is enhances, the rate of the biological function is increased with increasing concentration. And reached at the plate region, with further increase in concentration we got, there is a decrease in the biological activity, that is some toxicity arises. So the deficiency causes problem, as well as the surplus amount also causes the problem. So the optimum level, that is very important. So it is an urgent important to know the concentration of the ions of the molecules in our biology who are protecting our life. That is also in our environment, that concentration is very essential. You see, the oxygen, which is more important to us for our survivability, but this oxygen inhaled in our biology, in cell, that is reduced to H2O. O2 is reduced to H2O. Final electron acceptor is the oxygen, which is reduced to H2O. And every oxygen molecule needs at least 4 electrons for its complete reduction. O2 plus 4H plus 4E is reduced to H2O. But this 4 electron is not being carried out by oxygen at a time. It is in a stepwise manner. One electron is taken by oxygen molecule to prepare this superoxide. It is then formed the superoxide O2 minus. Further acceptance of an electron is reduced to peroxide, H2O2, hydrogen peroxide. Those are doing chemical laboratory work. They know the dangerous activity of hydrogen peroxide. If it somehow touches your skin, the skin quickly turns to white. That is, the melanin part of the skin is bleached, and that's why hydrogen peroxide is used, particularly in the different medicines, as well as in the treatment of some biological treatment. This hydrogen peroxide is useful. And so this superoxide, peroxide, they are hydrolyzed in body, in cell, to radical OH radical. All these three, superoxide, peroxide, and hydroxyl radical, they are very dangerous to human health. And inhaled oxygen about 5% of inhaled oxygen is reduced to the superoxide, peroxide, and hydroxyl radical. They are responsible for decomposition of DNA. They are responsible for deactivating the enzymatic function as well as structure. So they have the many impact in biology. And our life also generates, the biology also generates some scavenging mechanism. For example, the use of this catalase, superoxide dismutase, peroxidase, they are being useful agent to scavenge these reactive oxygen species. These superoxide, peroxide, and hydroxyl radical are known as the reactive oxygen species. And the catalase, superoxide dismutase, peroxidase, they have the different metal centers as well as the other parts of the molecule. Those are responsible for scavenging of these toxic agents. For example, you see the superoxide dismutase, that is a copper zinc metal enzyme. Copper and zinc, this is breached by imidazole, histidine imidazole moiety, and it shows its activity. The activity is different one. You see the zinc. Zinc is around 250 metal enzymes are being regulated by zinc. Carbon dioxide, which is produced in cell during its action, and that carbon dioxide is removed from cell by these zinc enzymes. Again, the carbon dioxide released from lungs to exhale air, that is also being regulated by zinc. And the phosphate hydrolysis in biology, this pyrophosphate is hydrolyzed in biology by zinc. So zinc has many important activities, copper has many important activities, iron has many important activities, and so on. You can see this slide where the metal ions are playing the different roles. See, sodium, potassium controls the nerve impulse across the cell membrane, calcium, magnesium, muscle contraction and nerve regulation, magnesium useful for photosynthesis and ATP synthesis, calcium, the structural element of bone, teeth, cell, clotting of blood, vanadium, plant growth factor, hemovanadins, chromium, glucose tolerance factor, deficiency causes diabetes, manganese, metal enzyme for photosystem 2. In photosynthesis, there are two steps, photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. In photosystem 1, carbon assimilation takes place, carbon dioxide is reduced to carbohydrate, while in photosystem 2, it is the water is oxidized to oxygen by some manganese enzymes. So this is being controlled by manganese. Pyruvic acid cycle also regulated by manganese. Role of iron is well known to us, the hemoglobin, which is an oxygen carrying transporter in cell. Myoglobin, oxygen stores in cell. Cytochrome C, ferritin, ferritoxin, these are the different iron metal enzymes. Vitamin B12 is regulated by cobalt. And nickel, it regulates the urease enzyme activity. Methanogenic bacteria in the marshes, the methane gas that is released, this is because of the nickel metal enzymes. Hemocyanin is the function of hemocyanin is regulated by copper, celluloplasmin, ascorbic acid oxidase, cytochrome C oxidase, and so on. They are being regulated by copper. And zinc, I told you around 250 metal enzymes are being controlled by zinc, carboxypeptidase A, and molybdenum, that is also nitrogenase, hydrogenase, nitrogen reductase, the nitrogen fixation in soil by some microbes as well as some blue algae, they are being carried out by molybdenum iron proteins. So this is a very partial information regarding the role of the metal ions in biology. If you go to hemoglobin, which binds oxygen and carries oxygen to cell and then releases in cell for its activity, this oxygen, I think our chemist students all you know that oxygen is paramagnetic, 2 electron paramagnetic. This oxygen is not being active unless it binds with the hemoglobin. Since hemoglobin iron 2, which is also a paramagnetic, it binds with oxygen molecule to make it diamagnetic. This diamagnetic oxygen is being active towards the reactions in cell. So that transformation is carried out by hemoglobin. So spin triggering is the main part of the hemoglobin as well as its transportation. So this is the different activity of the metal enzymes. We have to know what the metal ions are playing. Metal ions act as a medicine also. But some of the metal ions, those are not having any biological role as well as have no direct toxicity, but they are not being useful or they are not welcome into the human body. One of them is that aluminium. This aluminium, it is deposited in the biology and inhibits the neurotransmission. That's why the aluminium becomes toxic. So dangerous role of aluminium in biology because of its precipitation in different cell organs and stop the flow of neurotransmitters. Role of zinc is already I told you the zinc which controls the deficiency of zinc. It causes this mental retardation, loss of appetite, impaired immune function, and so on. Many other activities being regulated by zinc deficiency. Well, the surplus amount of zinc again is toxic to human health. So zinc is surplus. The adverse effects of high zinc intake include nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite, abdominal cramps, diarrhea, headaches, and so on. So we should regulate our consumption of these ions through our foodstuffs or beverages or through medicine. So we have to know what's the amount of these ions present in our foodstuffs. Again, if you go through other literature, you can find the fluoride, these anions, fluoride, phosphate, nitrates, arsenic, etc. Arsenic is a big problem in our country. Full Ganges belt, you see in West Bengal, full Ganges belt, 10 districts, more than 20% population of the state is being suffering from this arsenic toxicity. Arsenic, underground water arsenic, you see these red zones. All these red zones are of very high amount of arsenic present in groundwater. And their amount is more than 50 microgram per liter. Only in the green zones where the arsenic content is about less than 3 microgram per liter. And the arsenic problems, you see, these are the Blackfoot disease. These are the problems in our state. Also in different parts of the country, there are many other types of problems. The fluoride problem in the western part of our country. In Gujarat, in Rajasthan, this fluoride causes the fluorosis. In West Bengal, it is the Birbhum district, there is also some fluoride problem. Phosphate problem, phosphate, since huge amount of phosphates are used by the farmers as a fertilizer. But these phosphates are the source of energy. You know, you can remember this ADP transformation, where the energy is stored, or the ATP to ADP transformation, where energy is released as per the requirement. So phosphate is very important for their energy aspect. But huge amount of phosphate content in our social perspective, that is being drained out into the ponds and causes this algal blooming or the eutrophication that reduces the oxygen concentration. And Madam Busumata Rai already told that the depreciation of the oxygen concentration in water causes the harmful to the water bodies. So all these we have to know at the trace or ultra trace level so that we can start our treatment. And you know, this phosphate, which is being used by the human influence on the phosphate cycle, plant influence on the phosphates are well known to us. So our task is the determination of trace quantity of these ions so that we can regulate it. And this determination is being carried out by using some chemical principles. We are using here in the fluorescence technique as the chemical principle for their determination, quantitative estimation, amount of ions present in the foodstuff or beverages or in environment, by using different types of sensory molecules. Sensors are sophisticated devices that are frequently used to detect and respond to electrical or optical signals. A sensor converts the physical parameter, for example, temperature, blood pressure, humidity, speed, etc., into a signal which can be measured electrically. A chemical sensor can be regarded as a portable, miniaturized analytical device which can deliver real-time and online information in presence of specific compounds or ions in complex samples. So, how we are doing our work using these chemical sensors? In fact, we are using a chemical sensor. See, this is the one cartoon picture you see. This sensor has the three parts. One is known as the transducer unit, other is the spacer, and the last one is the receptor. Receptor is the device that receives the analyte which we are going to determine. So analyte when binds with it, that binding information transfers to the transducer, and this transducer manages its change, thus by either emitting radiation or by quenching radiation. This emission or quenching, that is, any change in the intensity of the radiation can be recorded by a physical device, and thus the sensor, the sensor can assign you the presence of that particular analyte. So analyte receptor interaction is the responsible for this sensing activity, and in the fluorescence technique, light is the source. That light impacts on the molecule. When the molecule is excited, that excited molecule undergoes large number of changes. That associated changes are being reflected from their spectral measurement. And this is the Jablonski diagram, which is responsible for the electronic movement. Upon absorbing light, this blue light, that is high energy light, is absorbed. Upon absorption, the ground state electronics configuration changes to any of the excited state. It may go to S2 state, and then it returns to S1. S1, this is an excitation process. After coming back to S1, the species can emit radiation, which is known as fluorescence, or it can move to the triplet state. This is A stands for singlet, T stands for triplet. Triplet state, this is known as the intersystem crossing, followed by again its release of energy by returning to the ground state, which is known as phosphorescence. Fluorescence and phosphorescence, these are the two common processes. Other than fluorescence, phosphorescence, there are many other processes by which that signaling process can be maintained. This is the basic technique which we utilize. So our task is to design a molecule. That molecule will determine this particular analyte at very small concentration. And so herein we have concentrated on some metal ions. For example, the zinc, we designed one molecule like this. This molecule binds with zinc. And if you irradiate with light, then you can see in presence of zinc, it shows this green emission. You see the difference in these two caveats. One cavet contains this molecule itself, which is irradiated with light, and another cavet which contains this molecule along with zinc. So the zinc forms a complex compound that is also analyzed and characterized by us by different spectroscopic technique. The structure of this compound like this, and its binding with this cavity enhances its emission, and thus the emission is being monitored, and thus we determine it. এখন ক্লাসে আছি sorry. See, the binding of zinc with this molecule changes the fluorescence intensity. It's a quantitative information you see. Presence of varieties of ions like sodium, aluminium, mercury, copper, cobalt, etc. Large number of cations are used. But there is no change in, or there is very feeble change in the fluorescence intensity. While if you add zinc, then there is a very significant change, enormous change. And that is also reflected from our naked eye test as well as from spectroscopic test. So this is being used. And we have also measured the pH of its measurement. By changing the pH, we observe in the biological pH from pH 7 to pH 12, this molecule is working nicely and the emission intensity is optimum within biological pH. So we can measure the zinc concentration in biology. Zinc is, as you know, at the pandemic time, we are consuming zinc vitamin. Since it enhances our immunity. So the presence of zinc in our products, in our foods, in beverages can easily be detected. Again, we have also checked the presence of zinc in some cell, like we use this African monkey cells. The presence of zinc in cell emits this green light. So the presence of zinc is estimated, and you see the limit of detection, that is the minimum amount of zinc which we can determine through this technique that is being calculated is 18 nanomolar. 18 into 10 to the power minus 9 molar. You just imagine what a very small concentration of zinc can be detected by this using this molecule. So our target is to design different molecules so that we can reduce this limit of detection amount. This is one thing. Secondly, we can utilize a synthetic technique so that this synthesis will be very easy one and less toxic. Thirdly, the zinc complex, if we utilize this zinc complex secondarily to analyze other ions. See the next example. Herein, this is one, the similar type of molecule, but herein instead of oxygen, this is sulfur. Sulfur binding with zinc complex also shows this enhancement of emission upon addition of zinc. And this zinc, see the green emission, we observe this green emission. Upon addition of different anions into it, into this emitting molecule, this is an emission is observed. If we add other anions, you see a large number of anions are added. Without changing the significant change, there is no significant change in emission property of the compound upon addition of this type of anion into this zinc solution, zinc complex solution. That is, emission is written. But in presence of hydrogen phosphate, H2PO4 minus, you can see that immediately emission intensity is quenched. So out of different anions, we can easily determine the concentration of H2PO4 minus using this zinc complex as the source of emission. That in qualitative test, in our analytical laboratory, our students perform the qualitative test for phosphate. I think they can remember this canary yellow precipitate. Canary yellow precipitate, molybdenum and addition of ammonium molybdate in nitric acid medium in presence of phosphate, different phosphate. There are varieties of phosphates, you know, PO4 minus, HPO4 minus, H2PO4 minus, P2A74 minus, all these are the phosphates. You can, during the ADP to ATP transformation, we use inorganic phosphate, ADP plus PI to ATP. We do not know which phosphate is there reacting. That's why the term inorganic phosphate is used. Since in ADP to ATP transformation, we don't have any idea which phosphate works very elegantly. But this is the only molecule which relies to know the H2PO4 minus. In presence of all other phosphates, as well as organic phosphate, bioorganic phosphates, the only H2PO4 minus is detected by quenching this emission. So this molecule has the dual application. In one application, it detects zinc by enhancing emission. On the other application, this zinc complex is secondarily utilizes to measure this dihydrogen phosphate. So that is being used also in the cell system. Herein also you can find another molecule. That molecule also determines H2PO4 minus at very low concentration level. Herein in the same way we determined that is the zinc concentration. Zinc is measured. You see the in presence of zinc, the emission intensity is very high. Cadmium also shows a very feeble emission, but with reference to cadmium, zinc has enormous amount of emission. And by adding dihydrogen phosphate, H2PO4 minus to it, the emission intensity is quenched. Emission intensity is quenched by adding this one. And you see, this limit of detection of zinc measurement is better than that of the previous one. Previous one was 18 nanomolar, herein it is 3.2 nanomolar. And the limit of detection of dihydrogen phosphate is 0.238 micromolar. So at micromolar concentration, phosphate can be detected. See, phosphate determination is very important. Those are doing some fishery business in the fish cultivation. Herein also we use another complex, another molecule which is also sulfur coordinating system. But herein we are using a coumarin phenol. This is a phytochrome 8-hydroxy coumarin. This coumarin is very useful molecule. It is also available in nature. And this coumarin complex, this coumarin derivative can form a complex with zinc and also shows very nice emission and also green emission. This molecule, the emission, this green emission is quenched by ATP. Upon addition of varieties of anions, even dihydrogen phosphate, which shows the quenching in our previous example, but that dihydrogen phosphate herein remains silent. So it is very difficult to know or to predict which anion will quench the emission of zinc complex. Herein ATP concentration is measured. Thus the ATP concentration, ATP quenches the emission of zinc complex, and that has been used to measure the ATP concentration in biological fluid also. So in this way, we are utilizing the same molecule for zinc determination and ATP concentration measurement. Here is also another example you see, that is also coumarin type derivative. And this also measures the zinc as well as ATP. We have designed another molecule. That molecule has the macrocycle type system. This molecule shows both zinc sensitivity as well as aluminum sensitivity. In presence of zinc, you see this very bright color, beautiful color. And while the aluminum, it shows this orange-red color. And in emission process, this is the absorption process, and they have the different absorption spectral characteristics for aluminum, for zinc. While in emission process, you can see the zinc shows this green emission, aluminum shows this orange emission, and their emission band also appears in two different zones, so they do not hamper each other. But if you add zinc to aluminum solution, this is an aluminum complex, it shows emission. If you add excess zinc to aluminum complex, then also aluminum complex transferred to substituted by zinc. This is a transmetallization process. Similarly, if you add zinc, aluminum to zinc complex solution, then also zinc is substituted by aluminum. So transmetallization is continued. And this is being used for the study of the zinc and aluminum in the live cells also. So thus the design of molecules are utilized for their measurement of zinc as well as aluminum. Herein you can see this another chromon derivative. This chromon derivative also serves as an aluminum sensor. You see this aluminum complex which shows this green emission. This emission is quenched by fluoride. So fluoride concentration in drinking water, in groundwater can easily be measured just by adding. So the very simple technique, in particularly in health monitoring in block, if you have any these two spectrophotometers, you need one visible spectrophotometer and another fluorescence spectrophotometer. Even college laboratory can help the locality for their health sustenance by measuring the different types of anions present in their drinking water. That can be done by following this fluorescence technique. So if you add fluoride, large number of anions are added. And these anions do not have any significant change in the fluorescence intensity other than fluoride. So fluoride concentration can be detected. Okay, so thus the design of molecule is very important for measuring the ion concentration. Herein you can see it is another design, a coumarenyl picolinyl hydrazide. This is a coumarin unit, this is the picolinyl unit. They form this hydrazone derivative. This hydrazide derivative shows blue emission with aluminium. This blue emission, you see, and the emission intensity is so high with reference to all other metal ions. Different other metal ions, around 20 other metals are added, metal ions are added without showing any change in emission intensity other than aluminium. And this aluminium complex, which shows blue emission, that is being used for the determination of nitroaromatics, nitrophenols, dinitrophenol and trinitrophenol. See this blue color is quenched. Blue emission is quenched by adding TNP and DNP, trinitrophenol and dinitrophenol. This quenching of zinc emission of the aluminium complex is used for the determination of this explosive material. So nitro explosives determination is a challenge to our forensic scientists. Since it is an explosive and terrorists are using these molecules. So that can also be detected by using this aluminium. Very simple technique for the determination of aluminium as well as these explosives. You know, the aluminium, I told you that aluminium does not have any biological role, as well as it does not have any direct toxicity over any metal enzyme, over any protein function, etc. But it is deposited in lipids where the neurons are being used to transmit their neurotransmitter for our biological activity. So the deposition of aluminium on these lipid cells that causes these neurotransmission inhibition, and thus the biological functions are being perturbed. That's why the aluminium is toxic. The aluminium complex, aluminium is detected at very low concentration level. You see, limit of detection is 6.99 nanomolar, about 7 nanomolar. 7 into 10 to the power minus 9 molar concentration of aluminium is detected. And that aluminium complex is used for the detection of nitroaromatics. Okay, we have designed many other molecules so that our target is to reduce that limit of detection value. Here in one molecule, this is also naphthyl derivative, coumarenyl naphthyl, pyridyl naphthyl derivative. That shows the limit of detection is around 2.09 nanomolar. And also other compounds from azophenols. This is the quinolinyl azophenolnaphthol, quinolinyl azonaphthol. You know, these azophenols are a beautiful molecules since they have very important biological activity. Azophenols, alta is nothing but azophenols. Our mothers and grandmothers, even our ladies are using this alta because of their antibacterial activity. And these azophenols are being useful agent for binding with aluminium. And this binding with aluminium changes this emission intensity. You see this emission intensity pattern by adding aluminium in presence of all other cations. Even this presence of these cations have no harm over this aluminium detection. Thus the aluminium is detected by using this. And this aluminium limit of detection, you see, here in limit of detection is much lower than the previous one. It is decreased to 0.69 nanomolar. Okay, thus our design towards the different types of molecules are continued for measuring the detection of the different cations along with their anions. Herein you see we use this molecule. This molecule has the two important aspects. One aspect is the addition of water to THF medium. It shows the segregation. We are not interested here in to talk about the segregation. Our interest is to talk about this detection of cations and anions. And while this molecule in aqueous medium determines aluminium, while the same molecule in dimethyl sulfoxide medium detects magnesium. That is an interesting one. The same molecule by changing solvent, thus the sensitivity of the molecule has changed. That molecule becomes sensing towards magnesium ion in DMSO medium, while it becomes sensing towards aluminium ion in aqueous medium. Okay. Herein also another molecule. This molecule has one interesting feature, that the molecule is prepared by condensation of sulfur methoxazole and naphthaldehyde, 2-hydroxynaphthaldehyde. Sulfur methoxazole, you know, sulfur methoxazole is sulfonamide. It is an antibiotic. Bactrim DS, well-known antibiotic previously used. Nowadays, the use of sulfonamide antibiotics is quite less because of their side effects. This sulfonamide, sulfamethoxazole, if you consume toxic event, it produces cancer. This is because of this amino group. This amino group is blocked by this imine bond formation. So its toxicity is being relieved. There is no toxicity of this compound. This compound acts as the antibacterial agent as well as an aluminium sensor. So we have checked their antibacterial activity and aluminium sensing activity and so on. And our design towards the other molecular units where the transducer is a polyaromatic hydrocarbon, you know, this pyrene. Pyrene shows aggregation-induced emission. That is, pyrene in aqueous medium aggregated, and this aggregation induces enhancement of emission. That's why it shows aggregation-induced enhancement of emission. Also, it is also fluorogenic towards aluminium. It binds to the aluminium and shows the blue emission. And not only that, pyrene, we have used another molecule as a transducer. This is the fluorine. Fluorine also similarly, it forms the aggregation. This is the aggregated nanomaterial followed by its binding with aluminium. On binding with aluminium, you see its enhancement emission is enhanced. Okay, so the binding with aluminium and zinc. Herein also a rhodamine derivative. This rhodamine derivative is used for their binding with aluminium and so on. Okay, not going to detail of it. We just transfer to another metal ion, which is palladium. As you know, palladium is an important metal which is used in the catalytic reactions. Different palladium, palladium 0, palladium 2, palladium 4, they are used in the catalysis. Even a Nobel Prize is received for the palladium catalyzed coupling reactions. And our students can remember the Heck reactions, Sonogashira reactions, and different types of CC coupling, CN coupling, CO coupling, CS coupling. So carbon heteroatom coupling reactions are being carried out by palladium. And even many drugs are now synthesized with palladium as the catalyst in their synthetic process. But nobody knows what amount of palladium is being contaminating in the end product. That is palladium used as the catalyst. Commonly palladium used as the heterogeneous catalyst. And during this, after that catalysis, the product which is isolated, the performer do not know what's the amount of palladium present in the product. Since the palladium is a very toxic, highly toxic metal ion, and its toxicity to the DNA deformation. As you know, the cisplatin is commonly used for the anti-cancer drug, but palladium cannot because of its very high toxicity. And that palladium we measure, this palladium 2+, by using this rhodamine appended SIP space. This is the rhodamine part, and this is the C double bond in SIP space part, and this rhodamine appended space with an allyl unit. Here in this allyl unit present, which invites palladium through some organometallic interaction. That is the objective, that to invite the palladium ion specifically out of different metal ions. You see, the metal ions we use for their measurement are sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, all sorts of transition metal ions and lanthanides also, and the platinum metals, platinum group metals, ruthenium, osmium, palladium, platinum, rhodium, iridium. All these metal ions are used to detect their impact on the palladium measurement. While the palladium shows the fluorescence intensity, and also palladium measured in the cell, since it shows this red color, red emission. That's why we measure it, and you see this limit of detection for palladium 2 plus is around 50 nanomolar. That's why this type of molecule is very useful for to act as a palladium sensor. But this molecule has one deficiency, that it cannot measure the palladium 0 or palladium 4. Those are also used as the catalyst. As well as we determine their toxicity by MTT assay, it shows that up to 150 microgram, it remains non-toxic. See, we design another molecule. This molecule has another interesting feature, that it measures all sorts of palladium, all states of palladium, palladium 0, palladium 2, and palladium 4. All these three types of palladiums are also measured by this fluorescence technique. You see this palladium, and here in the limit of detection is slightly decreased, that is, it is 95 nanomolar, while the previous one is 50 nanomolar. But the advantage of it, this design has the advantage, it determines all oxidation states of palladium used in the catalytic reactions. Palladium 0, palladium 2, and palladium 4. Okay, these are the other sorts of molecules. These are the rhodamine derivatives. Those are useful for the palladium determination in the palladium 2 state. This is where the limit of detection is better, 34 nanomolar, which is much better than this one, 18.8 nanomolar. So our target is to design a molecule which will measure this palladium only. Okay, here in another molecule of rhodamine, but this molecule is active to chromium 3. See, the difference is very subtle. The subtle difference has induced the different metal ions. This is a very surprisingly, this molecule, which has the only amide one alcoholic OH. Alcoholic OH, this is the difference between the palladium sensor and the chromium sensor. In case of the chromium sensor, this is the design contains one OH group, and that binds with the chromium, and this shows this chromium emission. You see this chromium emission. Palladium also has some feeble emission, but with reference to chromium, it is negligible. Also chromium, already I told you the chromium is useful for blue limit. That's why chromium and vanadium, zinc, these are the three important metal ions. Those are suffering from diabetes. For them, these three metal ions are very important. So we are designing many other types of molecules. Here in one molecule, you see this is a benzodiazepine molecule, pyrrolobenzodiazepine type molecule. This molecule is useful for determination of the copper. Copper is a transition metal ion, and it serves as a quencher. Commonly, fluorescence intensity is quenched by paramagnetic electrons. So copper acts as a quencher, while the zinc serves as the enhancement of emission, because the zinc does not have any paramagnetic electron. So they are known as, the copper is known as the paramagnetic quencher. There are very few sensors are known where the binding with the transition metals, paramagnetic metal ions, enhances emission. Herein, this is an example where the binding with copper ion enhances emission. You see, this blue emission is observed in case of copper. This blue emission is observed. That is very unusual. In presence of large number of cations, the copper emission does not be hampered, and this reversibility of its binding with copper is checked by adding EDTA. Herein you can see this A stands for the emission of this benzodiazepine molecule, while upon adding copper, this emission is enhanced to B. If you add EDTA, EDTA commonly removes copper from the binding of the benzodiazepine ligand. So its emission intensity is quenched. It comes to C. Further addition of copper to the same medium, emission to D. That means this reversibility is being checked. So that molecule may be used reversibly for binding with copper, for detecting copper, then you remove it and reuse for the copper determination. We have also synthesized another molecule which is a triphenyl amine naphthyl hydrozide derivative. This is a triphenyl derivative, this is triphenyl 1. It also binds with copper, and its binding with copper quenches this emission. So emission quenching is used for the determination of copper, and fortunately this molecule determines the cysteine. Upon addition of cysteine to the copper medium, the emission intensity is enhanced. That is, indirectly we measure cysteine from this copper complex. So this molecule has the double advantage. At one time we are measuring the copper binding, copper concentration, while on the other hand we can determine the cysteine concentration. We continued our effort to design many other types of molecules. One is hydrogen-based thiocarbamide. This hydrogen-based thiocarbamide directly determines the arsenide and phosphate. Arsenic is a major problem in my state. That's why we are trying to design some molecules that can easily determine this arsenic, or we may design a paper strip. If we have a molecule, colored molecule, then that color molecule will be soaked on the filter paper. And if we dip that filter paper in arsenic containing solution, then if it changes this color, and that color change can identify the presence of arsenic as well as the amount of arsenic. Unfortunately, we cannot avoid the effect of phosphate. So phosphate and arsenide jointly is used to determine their concentration in different amount. See, the limit of detection for phosphate is 4.1 into 10⁻⁴ molar, while limit of detection, this is for another molecule. This is another molecule. This limit of detection is not written here, but limit of detection is the micromolar region. This arsenic, arsenide measurement and phosphate measurement in micromolar region. This molecule, that is an adenine base. This is used for the measurement of phosphate and citrate, measurement. So our journey towards another enhance like cyanide. Cyanide, as you know, they're very toxic, highly toxic, and those are consuming cigarette. Their blood, in their blood, cyanide concentration is increased, and the biology has developed its mechanism to detoxify cyanide by sulfurization. That is thiocyanate. HCN minus is non-toxic, while cyanide is toxic. So cyanide concentration can easily be measured by using this molecule through absorption process. You see, there are large number of anions. Anions like thiocyanate, cyanate, thiosulfate, hydrogen phosphate, dihydrogen phosphate, iodide, perchlorate, bisulfate, sulfate, and cyanide. Only in case of cyanide, you see this yellow color is observed. While all other anions, they do not show any color change. So the cyanide is detected by using this molecule. We design also another molecule, rhodamine-based molecule. That rhodamine-based molecule is used for the cyanide detection. You see, upon addition of cyanide, the emission intensity is much enhanced. This emission intensity, enhancement of emission intensity is due to some previous reactions. Herein you can see the reaction, the binding of the cyanide with this C double bond N carbon. This carbon sent a nucleophilic addition. This nucleophilic addition may be the reason for its transformation, and this transformation may lead to its enhancement of emission. Thus, emission is enhanced. So we design, this is our molecular design for the different types of cations and anion sensing. We also synthesize the varieties of metal organic framework or the coordination polymers. Those are being used for the ion sensor. You see here in one molecule, zinc molecule, this is zinc complex. This zinc complex has a large cavity. This zinc complex shows this green emission. Upon addition of dihydrogen phosphate, this emission intensity is quenched. Emission intensity is quenched, thus the dihydrogen phosphate can be measured by using this metal organic framework. What's the advantage of metal organic framework with reference to simple molecule? The advantage is the stability. This metal organic framework, they are highly stable, thermally stable, chemically stable, and also stable to the environment. So they can be used in the solid state also. So they are being useful for the making devices. So this type of metal organic framework are useful agent for determination of both cation and anion concentration. Herein we design one metal organic framework of cadmium. Cadmium, naphthyl vinyl pyridine. This naphthyl vinyl pyridine and anthracene dicarboxylic acid. This anthracene dicarboxylic acid acts as a bridger. You see, this is a bridging agent. It bridges the two cation center, thus a 1D chain is constituted, while the naphthyl vinyl pyridine is the monodentate donor, monodentate ligand. It donates through nitrogen, pyridyl nitrogen. It forms a 1D chain. This 1D chain, because of pi-pi interaction present in this naphthyl ring, that constitutes the cavity inside the solid state. This cavity is useful to bind with the chromium. You know, chromium is a paramagnetic ion with D3 electronic configuration. It commonly serves as a quencher, but herein the addition of chromium enhances the emission. Herein you can see the emission is the emission of the cadmium complex. This blue emission is mainly due to its binding with the pi cavity present in the extended solid. That may be the reason for its binding and enhancement of emission. You know, emission is enhanced by making structure rigid. Structural rigidity is one of the important parameters for emission enhancement. Since the structurally flexible molecule undergoes the molecular vibrations, that vibrational relaxation can consume energy. Thus, the excited energy is being lost and they do not emit. But herein, the cavity is formed. This cavity binds chromium. Chromium fits into the cavity while other ions do not fit. That's why it becomes a chromium sensor. You see herein another coordination polymer. That coordination polymer of zinc, a terpiridyl terpiridyl serves as a end blocking agent, and this naphthyl dicarboxylic acid is constituting 1D chain. See, the 1D chain is zigzag 1D chain, and this zigzag 1D chain arranged in a fashion where the pi-pi interaction makes a big cavity. You see this big cavity, this cavity, and in this cavity, this molecule, this coordination polymer, is surprisingly active to iron 3+. Iron 3+ is also a quencher. That is well known to us. So, but herein, iron 3+ enhances this emission. Its binding with this cavity leads to the formation of this pink colored compound, and that pink color compound is responsible for its detection. And you see the limit of detection is around 2.2 micromolar. So we have designed different types of molecules as well as metal organic frameworks for the determination of zinc, which is nutritionally very important to maintain our immune system. So this zinc concentration at very low concentration level, in nanomolar concentration, this is measured. So in the foodstuff, in beverage, in food, in our drinking water, we can measure this zinc ion concentration. We measure copper ion concentration. We detect iron 3 plus concentration. We detect aluminium 3 plus concentration. Also measure palladium 2 plus and chromium 3 plus. And in terms of the anion, we detected the phosphates, ATP, chloride, cyanide. In terms of molecules, we have detected 16 only. So this is the, we can summarize our activity. Also, nitro explosives are also determined in our experiment. We just summarize herein we have designed different types of molecules, and our objective is very simple, that we have to synthesize a molecule which will be easy to synthesize. A student of 12th standard, if you supply these chemicals, then can synthesize, supply the chemicals as well as their synthetic procedure, then if you train them, then can synthesize. Then these synthetic molecules may be used for their detection by using only some two spectrophotometer you need. One UV visible spectrophotometer, absorption spectrophotometer, other is a fluorescence spectrophotometer. So very simple technique in college and in school level, anybody can do these experiments. Only thing you have to characterize your compound. And zinc determination, here in the aluminium is also determined by detected at very low concentration level. In nanomolar level aluminium, since aluminium is very toxic, in water purification is carried out by using the potash alarm. So aluminium is coming into drinking water. We have checked the aluminium concentration in the municipal water, the corporation water in Kolkata. And this aluminium concentration is significantly high in drinking water in Kolkata. As well as we detected chromium and palladium along with the different anions. So this is all about my scientific talk, and this is my university. And this university is coming from a nationalistic movement. This is, if you remember, the 1905, where the partition of Bengal by Lord Curzon, and that time in Bangladesh, as well as along with the whole India, the freedom fighters, as well as the revolutionists, then fought against this British decision to divide Bengal. And National Council of Education, Bengal is constituted in Jadavpur area under the leadership of these freedom fighters. And this National Council of Education established the Bengal Technical College. This Bengal Technical College provides the education to the farmers. And this Bengal Technical Institute turned into Jadavpur University in 1955. So the genesis of Jadavpur University in the nationalistic movement, and first rector is Sri Aurobindo of this Bengal Technical Institute. And Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai, he was the chairman of National Council of Education for long 20 years, till his death, 1924 to 1944. He was the chairman of National Council of Education, and under his dynamic leadership, this National Council of Education remodeled their syllabus and also their activity towards the rural level. And there my students, those have contributed in many aspects. These few figures are mainly given because they started this fluorogenic process for measurement of ions by sensing technique. Uttam started first, followed by many others, as well as these people, these two people, Vasudev and Kaushik, along with some other people, they started with the metal organic framework research in my laboratory. And this is my group. Some of members are already left from this group, and the funding agency, they provide this fund for doing research in Yadupur University chemistry. And before leaving this dais, I just tell you about the Indian Chemical Society. I need only 5 minutes more to finish my talk. Since Acharya Prafullo Chandra Rai, father of Indian modern chemistry, he in fact a great teacher, great man, and a true patriot, and an entrepreneur. He is the first person who invested his pocket money to establish Bengal Chemical, a company, an industry in our country in 1902. And then other people came forward to support him. And Acharya Prafullo Chandra, his activities, it's enormous activities. Since you know one of the marvelous activity of Acharya Prafullo Chandra Rai is the ancient science, study of the ancient science, particularly chemistry. He wrote a history of Hindu chemistry. A history of Hindu chemistry. If you go to the Google, then you can find there are 7 publishers internationally. They are publishing this book, A History of Hindu Chemistry. This Hindu does not mean any religion. It is the culture of the country. Since the civilization growth along the Sindhu River, bank of the Sindhu River, that's why he used this title, A History of Hindu Chemistry. If you read this book, then you can find how this ancient India started its iron extraction, zinc extraction, Makarodha synthesis, and many other products using some biological technique as well as bioorganic technique. And another, his finest contribution is the genesis of Indian Chemical Society. And this Indian Chemical Society is publishing this Journal of the Indian Chemical Society. Since 1924, this journal is now publishing by Elsevier. Since January 2021, this journal is publishing and its impact is now improving. So I do request to the scientists, those are here, as well as those are not here, to support this Indian Chemical Society, submit their research work. And mercurous nitride, you know, this is the marvelous discovery of Acharya Prafullo Chandra Rai, which remained in a debate till his 150th birth anniversary. And some of our chemists did not believe that mercury-mercury bond present and it is mercurous nitride. Professor Animesh Chakraborty, who synthesized this compound following the same procedure as it was published in 1896 in Asiatic Society Journal. And the same procedure he used, and he synthesized and crystallized this compound and characterized through extra structure determination that shows the presence of mercury-mercury bond. You just remember in 1896 when there was no machine, no instruments, only some handheld instruments for measuring nitrogen estimation. Acharya Prafullo Chandra Rai, so marvelous chemical intuition from his physical and chemical properties of mercurous nitride, he established the presence of mercury-mercury bond. And some other compound, crown thiaether, you know, crown ether received Nobel Prize. And Prafullo Chandra Rai reported it in 1934 in Nature. Thiacamphor, crown ether, etc. All these are being his research. He published 158 research papers in his career. You just imagine an experimentalist. During his time, there was no laboratory. He was the first person in the country who started chemical laboratory in Presidency College. And his teacher, Alexander Pedler, who started chemistry teaching in chemistry in Presidency College. Although Acharya Prafullo Chandra Rai was not the student of Presidency College, he was the student of Metropolitan Institution. Now it is Vidyasagar College. But he joined the lecture of Alexander Pedler, and he was being inspired by Pedler's talk to learn chemistry, and he joined in the laboratory of Alexander Crum Brown, Edinburgh University, receiving a fellowship. And then he learned chemistry. Alexander Crum Brown was an organic chemist, and Acharya Prafullo Chandra Rai, when he joined in the laboratory of Cranbourne in 1882. And that time it was the time of physical chemistry. And that time electron was not discovered. Electron discovered in 1897. But the concept of ions, Arrhenius theory, that was being known that time. So it was the time of physical chemistry. He did BSc in 1885 and PSc in 1887. Then in 1889, he joined in Presidency College. And then he started his chemical research. His research is divided into many areas: metal nitrides, metal sulfur compounds, coordination compounds, oxyacids. Although majority of his work, around 60% of his work in inorganic chemistry and 25% works in organic chemistry, and physical chemistry works in 15%. And his students throughout the country teaches chemistry, and he published 158 papers. Out of 158 papers, you see 8 papers published in Nature and 83 in Royal Society. And since 1924, majority of his publication appears in Journal of Indian Chemical Society. Acharya Rai started to work on physical chemistry in 1910 with the help of Professor S.C. Mukherjee of Presidency College. He determined freezing point depression of solution of nitrides and nitrates and determined their molecular weight. Since 1911, Acharya started to work on synthesis and properties of complex compounds of mercury, gold, platinum with amines, mercaptans and other organic compounds. Those are the inorganic chemists. They should be surprised to know this iridium compound, gold compound, these are starting compounds used by the coordination chemists. All these were characterized by Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai. And here is the group of his students. You can see the one student, you can easily identify who is that person. He is S.N. Bose. He is not at all a chemist. He is Meghnad Saha. He is not at all a chemist. But Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai was the teacher of them. So Acharya Rai believed on plain living and high thinking. When he was earning 800 rupees per month as head of the department of Presidency College, he did not spend more than 250 per month. He spent his time in Presidency College up to 1916. And then from 1916, he joined in the newly formed Science College in University College of Science, where he was the olive professor. And Indian Chemical Society was started in 1924, the premier scientific society of India. Founded in 1924, Acharya P.C. Rai was the founder president of the society. J.N. Mukherjee, J.C. Ghosh, S.S. Bhatnagar, while carrying out their research work in the University College London 1919 for the DSc degree, took a decision that after coming back to India, their endeavor would be to establish a chemical society like the Chemical Society of London. Their cherished dream was transformed into a reality with active cooperation of many of the leading personalities in the country, and the Indian Chemical Society founded on May 9, 1924 as a registered society with Sir Prafulla Chandra Rai, the Doyen of Indian chemists, as the first president. Many of the distinguished personalities in the field of chemical science of that time in India took active interest in nurturing the newborn society. Acharya Rai, when he was the student of Edinburgh University, he was the vice president of Edinburgh Chemical Society, and his teacher, Crum Brown, was the president at that time. And the first publication of Indian Chemical Society appeared in 1924. That is also being reported in Nature. Nature wrote the great work in chemistry which has occurred in the Indian Empire during the past 10 years had led to the establishment of an Indian Chemical Society. The first number of the quarterly journal of the society has now appeared. There are 13 papers and only one of these is published under the English names. The remaining papers are published by Indians and come from all parts of the Indian Empire. 4 of these emanate from the College of Science, Calcutta, and this is as it should be, because of many years past, this institution has been the backbone of chemical research in India. So this is the story behind the chemistry, growth of chemistry, chemical industry in India. He was the first president of FICCI, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce. That was now FICCI. Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai was the first president of FICCI. And All Bengal Teachers Association and All Bengal Professors Association, Teachers Association, and Calcutta University Teachers Association. He was also the president of All Bengal Teachers Association in 1921. And because of the seminal contribution of Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai, Royal Society of Chemistry came forward with a plaque. This is the first time in the history of Royal Society of Chemistry put this plaque outside Europe. They came to Presidency College. Now it is Presidency University, where he put their plaque in the memory of Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai to commemorate the life and activity achievements of Acharya P.C. Rai, father of Indian chemistry, philanthropist and entrepreneur who founded modern chemistry, teaching and research in India. This is Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai and his Bengal Chemical and his relationship with the national movement. And he was an ardent follower of Gandhiji. Gandhiji could not be familiar in Calcutta politicians unless there was Prafulla Chandra Rai. Since Prafulla Chandra Rai was a friend of Gokhale, Gokhale was the person who declared what Bengal thinks today, India thinks tomorrow. And Gokhale and Nil Ratan Sarkar was the bosom friend. Nil Ratan Sarkar was also friend of Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai. So Gokhale asked Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai to arrange a public meeting since Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi is coming to Kolkata. Acharya Rai arranged that meeting in Albert Hall in 1902, 1st January. And thus Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai became the follower of Gandhiji. This is the Science College where the Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai started his career and his next phase. And at that time, you just remember the Banaras Hindu University started that time. And Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai was requested to serve as a Vice Chancellor of that university. But Acharya Rai refused to join this university since he wanted to do research in Science College. And this is his museum in the Science College, Calcutta University, under the Department of Chemistry, where all his belongings and living weight. You can, the students can visit Kolkata and can see his museum. And Acharya Rai and Kavi Guru they came to the earth on the same time. Acharya Rai on the 2nd August, Kavi Guru on 7th May. And I do request to read his two books. One is the Life and Experience of Bengali Chemist, written by Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai. It is his life story, and this is published by Asiatic Society Bengal. And you just purchase this book from Asiatic Society, then 2 volumes of this book. And this is the book written by Professor Animesh Chakraborty, published by Indian Chemical Society in 2019. It is a glimpses of Acharya P.C. Rai's work in chemical science. But still, the activity, that is the research of Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai, still active, even at the present day. That is being written by Professor Animesh Chakraborty. And before leaving this dais, I do request to you all, since the 2nd August is the 160th birth anniversary of Acharya Prafulla Chandra Rai, this year Indian Chemical Society is going to organize one international seminar, students competition and young scientist conclave from 1st August to 8th August. 1st August is the student competition and 2nd and 3rd August is the international seminar on recent advances in chemistry and material science. And 7th and 8th August is a young scientist conclave. And if you go to our website, just you write Indian Chemical Society in Google, then that website will come. Or you can write indianchemicalsociety.com. IndianChemicalSociety.com can give you this brochure and the registration side is there, and you can easily register. So this is I must thank to the organizer for giving this opportunity to talk about Indian Chemical Society, Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray, and some of my research, and also the audiences for listening my talk. Thank you, friends. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for your talk on this sensors and detection of elements present in a very trace amount by using this fluorescence and UV visible technique. I think this research area will help all these environmental scientists as well as the chemists to do research or to use these techniques in the coming day. So thank you very much, as well as you have given a very nice introduction about Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray and his works. I think the students will be very delighted to know these things. And now I request our HOD sir, Dr. Basanta Kumar Das, to kindly communicate with you related with the interaction program. That means the questions, some of the participants have put their questions on the chat box. So I request our HOD sir to kindly communicate those questions and over to our HOD sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sinha sir, for your valuable and informative speech. Definitely our participants will be benefited from your speech, and they will definitely know about Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray through you. And I again want to thank you from the Kokrajhar Government College, particularly from the Postgraduate Department of Chemistry, Kokrajhar Government College. So there are some questions in the chat box. So I'll read those questions. If possible, sir, please answer those questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm looking it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shall I read?
Can aluminium enter to our body if we pack our food items with aluminium? Yes, sir. Yes, if you pack with hot food, if you put some hot drinks or hot food on aluminium dish, then you can see that aluminium dish is slightly corroded. That means aluminium is coming into your food. So if you use the aluminium foil as the package for transportation of food materials, certainly aluminium will come to your food. Depending on also pH, if you put even the tomato sauce prepared at home, at your kitchen, on the aluminium dish, then also aluminium comes easily into your food materials. Since the pH is around 5 of the tomato sauce. So it will come. Another question, what is the role of selenium in our body? Okay, selenium is an antioxidant. You know, I told you the oxygen which is reduced impartially to O2 minus and O2 double minus as OH radical. Those are the reactive oxygen species. They are very harmful. Even the reason for the mutation of gene. And these reactive oxygen species are being removed or quenched or snatched by selenium. And antioxidants present in our body also, this scavenging mechanism may not be appropriate for different biology. That's why some antioxidants like vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, along with the selenium is used. And third one, is there any simple processes to remove fluoride ions present in drinking water? In fact, there are some processes. Simple process means you have to, there are techniques now used in Rajasthan as well in Gujarat. They are using some resin materials. These resin materials are absorbing fluoride. Certainly, these resin materials are made up of iron and aluminium. Is cooking in aluminium utensils? Yes. That's why the aluminium utensils are not available now. Majority of we are using the steel, stainless steel utensils. So aluminium steels, 30, 40 years back, aluminium utensils were used in our rural area. Now it is being replaced. It is better to use the mud materials, but sometimes we are using the stainless steel. How can we determine presence of fluoride in our drinking water? That is our target. We are trying to make a paper strip that can easily show you the change of color, the presence of fluoride in the drinking water. Is there any taste difference? No, sir. The amount of fluoride which is present, that so small amount that cannot change any taste. Detection part I could understand to some extent, but what are the removal mechanism? Yes, that is another part. Removal mechanism. That means we have to develop the technology. We are now designing this detection technique. We are at present we are focusing to design metal organic framework as the device for removal. We are trying to it. And you just remember for arsenic, in your in the North Bengal area, there are different groundwater extraction mechanism is now placed so that the arsenic will be choked directly in the column material. And one, from T. Pradeep from IIT Madras has patented one material. Through that material, he removed iron and arsenic. These type of techniques are now under development. Lithium carbonate and lithium citrate cause any toxic effects? You see, this lithium carbonate is used as a medicine. Those are suffering from psychological problem, psychosomatic problems or mental depression. For them, lithium carbonate is a common medicine. Lithosan is the drug. Along with this lithium citrate, they are also used. But large consumption of lithium, in fact, choked the nervous system. So the lithium, that's why doctors commonly advise to check lithium, blood lithium, time to time. Those are consuming these lithium drugs. So lithium has that problem. So far I know that one molecule of cyanide can kill a person if we take intake directly, but you told that cyanide released due to, yes, cyanide that is released in our blood, that is when the smokers are consuming cigarette leaves, tobacco leaves contains large amount of organic compounds, and if you start the cigarette ignition, and ignited temperature is around 800 to 900 degrees centigrade. At that temperature, around 400 chemicals are formed, and many benzopyrene derivatives are formed. Those are carcinogenic. Out of these 400 chemicals, 40 chemicals are toxic so far known. So, in my country, more than 12 lakhs people are suffering per year in cancer because of cigarette smoking. Not only cigarette smoking, those are consuming solid narcotics, gutka, pan, dokta, different types of solid khoini. They also consume this type of materials to their body. And the biology has many sulfur enzymes. Cysteine is one of them. So these sulfur enzymes, in fact, scavenge the cyanide to make thiocyanate. This thiocyanate is non-toxic. That is one of the important mechanisms that is being carried out in biology. I think these are the
Yes.
few questions.
Yes, sir. So
There is no other.
thank you very much, sir, for answering all the questions. Now over to Dr. Suresh Kumar Nath.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our junior faculty member, Dr. Monul Haq, sir, to say speak a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh. Respected Principal Madam of our college, respected Professor Vikram Sinha sir, respected Anjali Madam, and my colleagues and dear participants. First, I would like to thank our Principal Madam for his valuable short speech. And I would like to thank Professor Vikram Sinha sir for his informative and valuable speech. I would like to thank Indian Chemical Society for collaborating with us. And finally, we would like to thank the participants who have joined in this webinar. Thank you so much. And over to Dr. Suresh.
Thank you, sir. Now the feedback link will be given by our HOD sir on the chat box. So I request all the participants to fill the feedback form that will be given on the chat box. Thank you.
Feedback form is already given in the chat box. So I request all the participants to fill up the feedback form.
My
And
last
on filling
request
up
to
the
you
feedback
all,
form-
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I do request all the participants to be a member of Indian Chemical Society.
Yes,
Indian Chemical Society, if you go to website, you can find the membership form. There are for 5 different types of members. Life member, life fellow, institutional membership. All these members can enjoy our journals also. The soft copy of journal can also be downloaded by our members. Okay, so this is my request to you all, so that you can read our journals, and that will improve our impact of in the scientific area. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Definitely, sir. So, I think we have come to the end of this program. So, thank you very much, sir, Sinha sir, and thanks to our principal madam, Madam Anjali Basumatari, IQAC coordinator, and all the faculties of our chemistry departments, and all the participants joined in this program from the different parts of the country. So thanking you all, we'd like to conclude this program. Thank you all.